Tell me when.
Start recording. Oh, okay. I think you can go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Take it away.
Whoever's out there, welcome to this informational presentation on the Community Legal Information Center, that is CLIC. This presentation is designed to sort of be a follow-up on the promotion that I did at the end of last year to give more information about what CLIC is, and also to hopefully provide you with some sort of insight and when somebody comes into your library, if you've not ever answered a legal reference question, how you can get started. But also always to know that you can reach out to the Community Legal Information Center. I was telling Karen before we started that I was kind of surprised in the year and a half that I've been doing this, how many people I would come across that would say to me they'd never heard of CLIC before. And at first I was kind of shocked by it. And then I thought, well, I really shouldn't be shocked by it. If you don't have a legal problem, then why would you even think about a legal information center? So hopefully by the end of this, you'll know a little bit about more what we do, what I do in particular, and ways that you can sort of help your patrons and then reach out to us when you need to. So how did the Community Legal Information Center come about? It opened in July of 2015 after Vermont State Library Law Library Program was closed in Montpelier. And I believe that there is a statute that requires Vermont to have some sort of legal reference service. So what happened is they had to basically create some sort of way to provide that legal reference service. And the result was the Community Legal Information Center. It is funded by an annual grant from the Department of Libraries. It is located at the Cornell Library of Vermont Law and Graduate School, which is in South Royalton, Vermont, which I am told is sort of the middle of the state, a little bit south of the middle of the state. So I think that helps, but it also really helps that we have Vermont Law School, and I'm only here 5 hours a day, and so they are a tremendous support service for me. They do a lot of the things that other librarians would do, or I would do if I had more time. So it's it's a great place to be, and it's a great resource. Okay, so I guess the important thing here is that, I mean, some of you I'm sure have had patrons walk into your library and ask you questions, or maybe you have never had them ask you a question. A lot of times, sometimes we're not even aware that there may be laws involved in what's going on, or legal issues involved what's going on, but this is just a sample of some of the questions that I have actually been asked recently. Child support and custody and modification of child support and custody agreements has been a big one. I've gotten an awful lot of questions about that recently. I frequently get asked about the open meeting rules, if people can get copies of them, what they are. Recently had someone ask me about a neighbor contributing to maintaining a common way. Just really all kinds of, and I'm sure you've had sort of, whatever interesting questions, but if somebody comes in and asks you these questions and you've had no experience, what's a good way for you to get information? Well, you can always reach out to me, and this will become a common theme. You can, but I think another really important aspect about all this is that, I'm here, and basically what I am is a legal reference and information service. Like any other reference service, this is what I do. I provide legal information, resources, and referrals. I don't answer people's legal questions because that would be giving legal advice, but I give them information, and that's my stock kind of answer. I say to them, I can't tell you what to do because believe me, they'll try to get you to tell them what to do. But I do tell them that I'm hopefully going to give them information or resources that will answer their question or will help them understand what their path should be or what they should be doing or whatever. CLIC's patrons are, primarily the general public, but it's other librarians, attorneys, and members of the government who tend to have very specific pointed questions. I think in terms of what I do, the vast majority of what I do is answering questions for the general public. And typically they're self-represented individuals, people who invariably call me or email me, most of the time call, and say, I can't afford an attorney, I need help, I'm desperate in some way, shape, or form. And when that happens, you want to help. And this is true. I mean, we know that there's the access to justice gap, and it seems to me that it just keeps getting wider and wider as more and more people say they can't afford representation and don't want to pay for representation, and they end up representing themselves. So in providing the service that we provide, it's a teeny little bit of a way to close that gap, very teeny. But anytime I help somebody and I help them in a way that's tangible, I'm like, well, this is what this service is about. And this is what's so important. I had an email from a guy this morning when I came in, who I helped yesterday. And it was just like, oh my God, thank you so much for your help. I never would have been able to do this without you. And I'm like, yay, that's exactly what we want to do. So, and I mean, it's great. And I think it's wonderful to have this resource. But like I said, I'm also here 5 hours a day. And people come to your libraries not within those 5 hours. And typically when somebody comes to you, they're in a situation where there's a lot of stress around legal issues. And I think that, I went backwards, hold on. I think also giving you some tools to be able to at least give them some background information is kind of helpful, because I know that when attorneys don't know about a specific area of the law, one of the first places that they go is to find some background information on it. You look for an article, you look for a treatise, you look for a practice manual, something that guides you and gives you the information that you need about this particular legal topic. And all lawyers start that way. So hopefully by going through some of this online guide, which is the Vermont Librarians Legal Information Toolkit, which you can access through the CLIC website, or Vermont Law School website, which I think I'll show you how to do that in a second. Because I'm going to reference a couple of the guides, or maybe I'll do it at the end. That you can give them some background information, because even just giving them a little bit of information, anything that they can gather about their issue is going to alleviate some of their stress. And then, I mean, by all means, reach out to me. I love reference. That's why I'm here. And I love to help. That's why I'm here. But if, sometimes in the moment, the best thing you can do is provide something that helps. And hopefully by going through this, we'll be able to find you a couple of ways to do that, but also know that a second pair of eyes is important. And I have 30 years experience doing this. So I have a lot of experience, so that I'm pretty good at finding information, legal information in any event. So, feel free to reach out, but with recognition that sometimes in the moment, you kind of have to do it yourself. So this is the citation, or the link to the guide is right there, but this is what the start page looks like, or the first tab looks like. We start here. And I think some of the things that we talked about already are here. And that's that, for the most part, probably you're not lawyers or a law librarian, as the case may be, but you are a librarian and you have reference skills. And in the moment, you want to help. And I think you should. Because like I said, sometimes just giving somebody some information, some background information on these things is enough to alleviate some of the stress. And in the meantime, you can contact me, or make a referral, or find a referral, or do more looking yourself. You'll gain some time to be able to do that. But I think the most important thing to know is that legal issues are subtle and they are nuanced. And there is no typically easy answer in the law. That's why when you go to law school, you're taught to argue both sides of a point, because you can. I mean, the law gets interpreted in different ways. So it's very dangerous to be able to have somebody who comes up to you and says, I want an answer. Can you help me? Can you tell me how to do this? Can you tell me what I need to do? How do I do this? What would you do? How should I go about this? I've so many times. And as I said before, my stock answer is just that I'm not admitted to practice law in the state of Vermont. I cannot tell you what you can do, but what I hopefully can do, and I want to help you, is get you information or resources that are going to get you where you need to go. So that's really it. I mean, that's what I do as the CLIC person, is focus on the resources. I focus on getting them resources, getting them information, and getting them referrals. Some of the whole idea about the unauthorized practice of law is kind of changing a little bit. So I have a little bit more comfort with some things than I used to. Recent cases have said that maybe we can be a little bit better about giving information. I mean, there used to be really strict standards about what we could and couldn't do. Like specifically this guide says, and it was created back when CLIC was started, is that you can't give people a specific form. You can give people a specific form. If somebody calls you up or comes into your library and says, I need to modify my custody order, you know, show them the judiciary website, show them where the form is, and you're fine. And if they're far away and they can't come in, send them the form. That's not the unauthorized practice of law. That's what a law clerk would do. That's what any reference librarian would do. I mean, if we were in a situation where you had a patron come into your library and say to you, I want to know how effective this COVID vaccine is. Would you say to them, I'm not a doctor, I can't help you? No, you find them some resource that is going to explain to them how effective that vaccine is. And that's all we're doing as librarians. The wonderful thing about CLIC is, as I said before, is that I got a lot of experience. So it's probably easier for me to find those things. But hopefully, some of this stuff will help you get started in doing that. Okay, so actually, these are our free legal information websites, which is the second tab. Each one of these is a live link to, obviously, information, a LibGuide, online guide, whatever. The Center for Agricultural and Food Systems is a Vermont Law School guide, which actually I used for the first time yesterday. I had a gentleman call me who wanted to know what's considered a farm structure on an 8-acre farm, as opposed to a 10-acre farm, which is when Act 250 kicks in, and if there's any state law which deals with that. So I actually went to that website. I don't know how much you use it, but in terms of these online guides, I would suggest like the Vermont Legal Research Guide, which is resources for finding current and historic Vermont laws. And it shows you how you can find legislation, statutes, how you can find administrative rules and regulations, and then how you can find case law, Vermont specific, both historic and current. So just below that, and sometimes I use it. I especially use it for like administrative agencies when I'm not sure what agency handles what. The legislature has all Vermont statutes online. Statutes, if you don't know, are organized by title, which is basically they're codified. And that means that the title represents some specific, I don't know, subject area of the law. And then they're organized under chapters and subchapters. So, I mean, you could always go to the statutes online and sort of scan through the title headings and chapter headings and see if you can find something there. And they also have the administrative rules and regulations online too that you can access there. The Vermont Judiciary, which I am going to show you because this is kind of an important one because there's a lot of information here for self-represented litigants. So I'm actually going to share that information with you and show you, hopefully. Let's see, how am I going to do that? Hold on. I'm going to share my window. Oh, let's see. That's not my window, is it? Where is this here? Hold on, I'm having troubles, which I often do. Here we are. Where is this? Can you see that, everybody? Not that.
I don't see anything.
That's not good. All right, I don't know why it's not working. I wanted to share. Window. Let's try it one more time here. It doesn't seem to be showing it for some reason. So maybe I can't because of the way we're doing this. So we may have to just not do that.
Yeah, I still don't see anything, so.
Okie doke. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, it's gonna go back to this. Oh, wait a minute. No, hold on. You don't want to do that either. Oh, sorry about that.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure, ask away.
So one of my questions was, when people email you or write to you, is that considered public record?
That's a really good question. And the truth is, I don't know.
Right, because
I
you
don't
mentioned that
know.
most people call, so I was wondering if that was why, because they were worried about it being public record.
No, I mean, I think to be quite honest with you, and I got to find how to get back to sharing this. I don't know why it's not working. It says you'll need to go back to the window you were sharing to resume. Okay. All righty. Did that work?
No, I'm not seeing.
Huh. What the heck? What the heck? I don't know why it's not working. All right. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to start sharing again. And then I'm going to go to my window. Yeah, that's where, no, that's not what you want. What is going on?
I see your email.
I know that's not helpful, right? No. Oh, come on. No. That's it. Did that work?
Yes.
Ah, excellent. All right, I'm not going to go away from this. Even though I wanted to show you the Vermont judiciary, I'm not going to, because for some reason it's not working. That's a really good question. No, the reason that people do it, and that actually raises two really important questions. I don't share any of it anyway. So even when I keep statistics, I don't, none of that stuff gets, it doesn't go anywhere, stays here. But I believe that most of the people who call me on the phone call me because of not having access to internet, or like they may have phones, but I'm not sure how well their internet service works, or what kind of plans they have. And
Right.
because I will end up saying to them, well, if I find something, can I email it to you? And they'll say, I really don't have a good, computer, or I don't have. So for whatever reason, and a lot of times I think it's the case that they just don't have good access to internet or web service somehow.
Right.
Also, they think but I agree with you. I think part of it too is that they just seem desperate sometimes when they call. So, which is always disconcerting in and of itself. Anyway, so I was going to take you to the Vermont Judiciary, which has a really great website. I'll just tell you, and you can sort of go there yourself. They have court forms, which, for common areas that people frequently are doing self-representation. So, absolutely custody, landlord, tenant, divorce, small claims, all of those forms are there and available for you to, show them where they are, or, help them find them. They also have a really good self-help center, which I also wanted through that, to be able to show you Vermont Law Help, which is Vermont Legal Aid's. They maintain a website that later on, actually, when I go through a little bit of an example, I have a sample from one of the web pages and how useful they are. They also, because poor Vermont Legal Aid, I said before, a lot of people call and they'll say, I called Vermont Legal Aid and they didn't get back to me, or they can't help me, or that is not to knock Vermont Legal Aid, because seriously, they do a fantastic job. They just don't have enough resources to help all of the people that call them. So one of the ways that they help people is by Similarly to creating this online guide, they have a website that has a series of online guides that are available for self-representing individuals. For example, they actually have a video that walks you through getting a divorce. These are the steps. This is the process for small claims. This is the process for divorce, etc. The Vermont judiciary also has, as I said, some information on some of these more common self-representing situations as well. The other thing they have, which is helpful, is they have like there's a section when you're in the self-help center where, and you'll see it actually has self-help center there, that discusses, you know, like legal clinics and things like that. So places that you can turn to when if you don't have, like legal aid can't help you. There are very specific clinics that some that deal with domestic abuse. Trying to think what else off the top, the veterans clinics and things like that. So great resource if you know, a great place to start if you get the opportunity to look at it. And I'm kind of sorry that we can't. I'm having trouble sharing. The other, I didn't go over this, but you can see also that there are federal resources that are free, and all of these resources are free. So if you don't know where to start and you don't know where to go when somebody comes in, this is a great way to, you know, help them find something. And other resources, before I get to our self-help books, which I'll talk about a little bit in depth in a minute, Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute, Fine Laws Law Dictionary, and NOLO's Legal Encyclopedia are all really great ways to find little blurbs or articles or whatever on certain areas of the law. You know, if you have a patron who comes in and says, I want to find out about undue influence because, I mean, they probably heard it from somebody. I want to challenge my mother's will or whatever, or power of attorney or whatever it happens to be. You stick undue influence in any of those websites and they're going to come up with an article or an explanation of what that happens to be. Obviously, Legal Information Institute is written by and put together by Cornell Law School, so it's very legally. But as you go on down the line, it becomes less legally. Google Scholar is also an excellent resource. I said to you before, and I mean this with all of my heart, that when lawyers don't know something, they try to find an article or, you know, some sort of practice manual, something. Vermont doesn't have a lot of practice manuals. We have, I think, maybe 3 that are used fairly regularly. Prior to this, I worked in a Massachusetts trial court, and they had hundreds on every topic of the law you could possibly think of. So that was a little bit something I had to adjust to, which meant I had to do a little more digging when I came to Vermont, which is fun. Digging's fun. But Google Scholar is also a great place to find articles and or search case law. And if you put in undue influence, you're going to get articles. You can go search Vermont case law and find cases on undue influence. It's all there. Okay. So the other resource that CLIC has that is available to librarians is, public librarians, is our self-help legal titles. We have about 160 of them, and these are just some of the topics. You may wonder why it is that they're not on Clover, and why I created basically an online guide that has become CLIC's catalog. Because I am housed in Vermont Law and Graduate School, all of my books, when they come in, are cataloged by their cataloger. So they go into Vermont Law and Graduate School's catalog, but as owned by the Community Legal Information Center. The problem with this is that, I mean, you could go onto WorldCat and you can look and you could find them, or you can actually go into Vermont Law School's catalog and find them. But it's hard to request them. You have to come to me personally, like, you know, email me, email CLIC, or call me and say, I want this book. And it's also harder to search. We did try to find a way to get them on Clover, but as it turns out, there's some sort of technical link that needs to be acquired to do that, and it costs money. So, so I was like, okay, what can I do? Because these books are really great and people need to know that they exist. So I created another LibGuide. And as I said, you can all of these LibGuides that I'm referencing, you can go to Vermont Law and Graduate School's homepage, and right on the right-hand side, you'll see Community Legal Information Center. You want to go to the library, actually. You want to go to the library page, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the Community Legal Information Center, and you can click on that and see the LibGuides, or you can, click on the library homepage research guides, and all of the Community Legal Information Center's various guides will be there, including this one that has all our textbooks or our self-help legal titles. So what I ended up doing was basically creating a catalog, and I organized
what about
all
Spanish class?
What's that?
It's on there.
Anyway.
Oh.
So I organized them all by subject matter, as you can see, and this is just a sample of what's there. Starting with alternative dispute resolution, animal law, which is basically related to dogs, business entities, cannabis law, criminal trials, civil trials, et cetera, et cetera. And then each one of these has a little blurb on what's included in the book. And unfortunately, the only way that you can really request them is by emailing me or as I said, telephoning me. And then basically what happens is that I will lend them to the library, and then you can have the patron check them out of your library. All right. So that gets us to, so I tried to give you some ways that you can help. Really what I want you to do is call me, but I also recognize that in the moment, like I said, I understand that sometimes the best thing you can do for people is give them at least some information that helps them, reduce their stress level a little bit. But, if not, you reach out to me. This is going to show up in like 3 different places, but you can call and leave a message on the Ask a Law Librarian line, which is 802-831-1313, which is not a live line. And or you can send an email to click@vermontlaw.edu. Once we start a conversation, you'll have all my personal, everything comes to P. Cartier anyway. So because of the way our system works, it doesn't seem to send back and forth between CLIC, but okay, so I thought what I would do is show you how I was able to use some of these books and sample stuff that has come in. Really, literally, these have been in the last like couple of weeks. That I've had people come to me and sort of show you a sample of what I've been able to do so that you can see, so that, hopefully it'll give you confidence to reach out and just, ask. So I had a gentleman come into my office, I think it was not even 2 weeks ago, and he was here for about 2.5 hours. But mostly because this too from having your patrons come in to the library, that it's a situation where a lot of times they just need to unload. And this poor man had a story that he needed to unload, which, okay, so I listened to about a really sad story about how his 53-year marriage ended, which was very sad. And actually the whole issue on the motion for contempt is the last, which is the 4th example. He needed help with dealing with that, but I had listened to that and I said, okay, that I need to think about. And I was supposed to be in a meeting and I had been late for the meeting. So I said to him, so then he told me about this power of attorney. His sister has power of attorney for his mother. He's been asking his sister what she's been doing and she won't tell him. And he really wants to know, how does this whole thing work? And so I said, hey, I have to go to my meeting. It's only gonna be 15 or 20 minutes. I'm gonna sit you down with a book that's gonna give you that answer. So we happen to have a practical guide to estate planning in Vermont, and I happen to know that there's a section in one of the chapters that's related to powers of attorney. So I said, okay, come with me. I brought him over to the CLIC room. I gave him the book and I set him out and I said, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have you read this. And then when I come out, we'll do some more looking and we'll see what we can do. I left for my 15 or 20 minutes and I came back and he said, this is exactly what I was looking for. And I was like, yay. I mean, it refers to a lot of statutes. So we went to the statutes, which are the primary source, and I copied all that section for him so he could take it with him. But this book is here. And it's also in the LibGuide, in our online catalog / LibGuide. So yeah, it was a great resource to have, and it was an easy way to give him the answer that he was looking for. I had a gentleman come in, well, he called, and he was having issues with his denial of his workers' comp claim, and he wanted to appeal. So I helped him get the paperwork, but at the time I didn't think I could help him as much as I could, but now I think I could help him explain terms and things more than I did. I think I got him like sample. Sometimes I can find sample filled in forms. Not always, but sometimes. Through our legal databases, Westlaw and Lexis, sometimes I can find those things, because sometimes they'll have trial forms that people have filed in their databases. But I'm assuming that it was, he didn't say, but he emailed me again later, and he said that he needed information on standard personal injury by accident arising out of and in the course of employment, because that's how you're covered. That's what your injury has to be caused by an accident arising out of and in the course of employment. And he said, I need to know what that means. I need to know, I need to understand that standard. And so I said, okay, well, you could go to Google Scholar and look and put in the standard, and because he was over an hour away and he wasn't coming in. So he could not come and use Lexis and Westlaw. I said, but I think I might have a book that helps you. I'm going to look around. So as it turns out, I have a book that helped him, Workers' Compensation and Employee Protection Laws. And there's a part of this chapter was exactly about that formula and how it's been interpreted and what you have to do to prove it. So again, I was able to scan a few pages and send them off to him. So that worked out really well too. And then very recently, I've had a couple of these. I have a few of them actually ongoing, where a parent is seeking modification of a custody agreement in Vermont. So this one particular one was a parent who was seeking modification of custody agreement. She had moved to Massachusetts with a father. They had the child. She came back to Vermont with her child, and she was seeking to modify the custody order because she's in Vermont now. And when she applied or made her petition to the court to modify the agreement, she handed in a letter from one of her son's teachers and a DCF report that I think that negatively portrayed the father of the child. And the court sent them back to her. So she emailed me, or she called, I can't remember which one, and said, what do I do? I mean, why can't I hand in this information, and what kind of evidence can I give to the court? So we have this wonderful book, Divorce in Vermont, where it actually talks about, in every state, it doesn't matter where you are, the standard for determining who has custody, which in Vermont is called parental rights and responsibilities of a child, is the best interest of the child. And in this guide was written by 2 divorce attorneys in Vermont. And in any custody situation, they tell you, the judge asks you these 9 quote unquote magic questions, and how you answer them will influence how the judge determines custody issues. So I sent that to her because she wanted to know what she could do in the hearing and what she could say and what she could bring and all those kinds of things. Just also, I think, because I thought it would be a great insight for her. But also, as it turns out, I was able to go to Vermont Legal Aid's Law Help website. And you can see here, this is about the best interest of the child. And in it, they tell you what evidence you can bring to the hearing. So I was able to send that to her. And, I'm not telling her what it says. I'm not telling her what she can do. I'm just giving her the information that gets her where she needs to go. And I think we'll skip the 4th one, but those were the resources. The last one was, I ended up having to get him and sometimes I try to be sort of a little more helpful than maybe I should be by highlighting something to get them to focus on that particular area without telling them what to do. I sort of guide them in that direction, because he wanted to know in the contempt proceeding what he could include in his answer. Clearly he wanted to unload, and he wanted to put the unloading in the answer to the contempt proceeding. And so I wanted him to see what the court would allow or not allow, and tried to guide him in that direction. So also sent him, in this case, would be a statute and a court rule, which gave him that information. So that gets us through what I do, ways that you guys can help, but also just keep in mind that I'm here and that I want to help. I am here, as I said, Monday through Friday from 10:30 to 4. The library itself is open from 8 to 8, 7 days a week. The door's unlocked. So if a person wanted to come in and do their own research, they could. There are limitations on where they can go through the library because the students are here. And the hours do change during the summer. They close earlier, I believe, on during the summer hours. I think they close at 5. So, and again, you can any questions you have, even if it's just like, you help somebody and you want support in doing that, or you want some guidance on, where you think you can find an answer, because you're right there. You're on the, the front. So I'm happy to help you in whatever way I can. Typically, if you email me, it's typically same day. And with the Ask a Law Librarian line, it gets recorded and then sent into my email. And so there's a little bit of a delay. Not much, but a little bit of a delay. And so that's typically 24 to 48 hours during the weekdays that I will respond. I do want to go over the last thing, which is how to find a lawyer. I told you on the Vermont Judiciary website, there's a great resource in the self-help page that tells you how you can find legal assistance. But again, we also have another LibGuide, Vermont Legal Resources for Civil Matters, which again is done by subject matter. Everything in the law is done by subject matter. So it's organized by subject matter and then provides you with, obviously legal aid and Vermont bar referral and typically the South Royalton Legal Clinic, which is associated with the law school. Another great resource that I can tell you about too is the ABA, Vermont ABA, free answers. So the ABA sponsors a free answers program, and every state, I think, has them, that lawyers volunteer to answer people's questions. So again, it's a situation where you have to be low income, and so you go onto the website and you fill out the information, and if you meet the qualifications, you can ask a question, one question at a time, and when a lawyer has time, they'll answer it. The problem with that is that they may not answer them because might not be a lawyer who's checked in that has the expertise to deal with whatever your specific situation is. And they're doing it for free, but it's also worth a try, I think. So this guide will also provide other resources. So with bankruptcy, we have Upsolve, although I reworked this. This was one of the first things that I did when I got here a year and a half ago and did not know a lot about Vermont resources. So at the time, I did a lot of research, like background research, but having experienced it for a year and a half, I'm pretty sure I need to update some of these things. But so you can see for consumer issues, there's a reference to the Consumer Assistance Program. I've directed people to the Attorney General's Consumer Assistance Program. And this is a sample of the one for domestic violence and the resources that are out there for domestic violence. And I actually had child, and it covers everything. So it covers relief from abuse actions, stalking, sexual assault, child abuse, any one of those typical or common situations that are associated with that. The law in itself, sometimes we're never really sure. Somebody comes in, you're never really sure. Sometimes I'm not sure I should be helping some of the people. I know I should be helping them, but everybody deserves help, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I had a couple call me like one night, it was like 7 o'clock at night, I'm not here. And they're like, oh, DCF just took our child away. We need help. What can we do? And I'm like, dang, I came in the next morning and I kept trying to call them and they didn't have an answering machine on their phone or anything like that, a message. So I kept trying to call them and they never answered the phone. But, whatever happened there, the child was taken away. There is actually a Vermont Parent Representation Center, which will actually help parents in those situations. So yeah, I felt badly about that, but that's part of the problem of being here from, 10:30 to 4. But I mean, even at night, it would be the case. And you kind of wish you could help, but you can't always. So, but every time I do, I'm so excited because then I really feel like I know that I'm helping people, and that's why I'm here. So my hope is that no matter what, you'll know that I'm here, and if any question, anything I can help with law related, guidance through a database of some sort, teaching people how to use databases, just, pointing you in a certain direction, I'm very happy to do it. But when patrons come into your library, I don't have to tell you to listen. That's what librarians are, wonderful listeners. But focus on resources, not answers. Help them navigate those resources, help them find those resources, and then make great referrals. That is what I do every day. I know that I have limitations about things that I can't help people with, and I try to refer them to places that I hope people will be of greater help to them. All right, questions? Anybody?
Can I ask, Pamela, this is Karen. I have a question. I have a couple of questions. So my first question is, you had mentioned that you can give people legal forms if they're asking for them.
Right.
But what if they're asking which form they should use? Is that considered
Yeah,
legal advice?
That is a really good question. I would say if they're yes, if they're specifically asking which form they should use, then no, I don't think you can do that. You can sort of guide them. So like, again, if I could go to the judiciary website, there'll be, if you go through divorce, and they'll say divorce with children, divorce without children, and they may ask you that question. You can guide them to the website where they'll actually give them sort of a little bit more guidance on which forms to choose. I mean, I think even clerks won't do that either. They won't, if you ask for the specific form. But the really good thing about both the judiciary's website and I've actually started to put something together because people ask me about it so much, which I haven't gotten to yet. Like basically the steps in filing a civil complaint, because there's nothing that tells them how to do it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I kind of have to say, if they were asking which forms do I use, yeah, you can't really do it.
Okay.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. We do have, and I said this in the last talk that I gave, that supposedly, but this has been in a year and a half, we were supposed to have a court service center that's going in Burlington, but I don't think it's up and running yet. And at the court service center, again, you'd have to be there, but they would be able, they're going to have people who will help be able to direct you through the forms, and which forms to use and things like that. But as far as I know, it's not up and running yet, but it's supposed to be at some point.
And what happens if you accidentally do give something that's considered legal advice? Like, what would those ramifications be?
So probably nobody will ever find out.
Right.
That's probably the real. The real difficulty is for you personally. It's like, if you think about, if you give somebody advice, and what if it turns out to be the wrong advice? That's hard to, I think personally, I think you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I may have sent them down the wrong road. Right. That I think is the hard thing. I mean, sure, what would happen is, that could happen is that the Vermont Bar Association could come after you and say you were doing the unauthorized practice of law. They're not probably ever going to know. And it happens. It happens to me sometimes, because I did practice law for a while. And when I first started being a librarian 5 years ago, it was like, I wanted to give people answers. It was so hard for me to not give people answers. But in the end, it becomes, you understand the importance of it. And I still do it sometimes. I still catch myself. And then what I always do is I say, if I catch myself going off and saying something that I say to myself, oh, that sounded a bit like advice. I'll say, but I'm not allowed to tell you what I should do.
Right.
So don't take that as I backtrack and say, okay, listen, I really, I'm not admitted to practice here. I can't tell you what to do. this is just, maybe my humble opinion, and it's not necessarily the right opinion. And I try to backtrack and tell them, don't rely on me because you can't. But really, honestly, it would be only if somebody found out. And if you're like nobody, I don't mean nobody, but you know what I mean. They're probably not gonna make a big deal about it. The cases that have existed have been really big operations. So like one of the recent ones is in New York, they have set up, there's a nonprofit that has set up like a system whereby they go into the courts and help people who are in consumer debt situations, negative consumer debt situations. And they literally help them. These are not attorneys, they're people that they've trained. They give them a transcript type thing and say, you're going to walk these people through the form so that when they go into court or when they go in to fill out paperwork, they're not going to check the wrong box, which invariably gets them to lose everything. Because what was happening is that people were just not knowing how to fill out the paperwork, and they would be in default, and that was the end. They were lost. There was nothing they could do about it. So this nonprofit organization decided, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to train a lot of people to help them fill out the paperwork the right way. And this is all they can do. And they have to go through training, and they have to tell people that they're not really there to give them advice, but it was just to help them pick. And they also had to, I don't know, there were all these things like safety things that they had in place so that they weren't going outside of whatever was helping them fill out the forms. And it went to a New York court, and the courts upheld these people and said it was not, they were sued by the Attorney General of New York, and the New York appeals court said that it was not the unauthorized practice of law because these people had the right to, it was a First Amendment right, freedom of speech type thing to help these people. So for whatever reason, and I think it's because, and I think this is why I don't worry about it as much, and this is a really long-winded answer, is that the access to justice gap is just widening. We find so many ways to help people, but I think to be quite honest, in a lot of the ways that we help, it's limited. So we've done so many things by putting a lot of things online, and but there are so many people who don't have access or good access to online. So I think that there's a recognition that we have to do something to help people. And so there's sort of been a weakening of this standard of what that means. So long-winded way of saying, yes, possibly you could be prosecuted. Probably you won't be.
Thank you, Pamela. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right.
Does anyone else? Yeah. Oh, and Joy just posted a link to the workshop evaluation for folks who are participating.
Yep.
Pamela, I have one last question if no
Sure.
one else is going to ask. You mentioned briefly that you had Westlaw and LexisNexis. Are those available to people who are using CLIC when they come in?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So we have Lexis, Westlaw, and Fastcase. Most people use Westlaw and Lexis.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, which I've actually shown people how to use. So like for historic laws and things like that, we have something called Hein Online, which you'll see on the computers. And if you come in, you also have access to some of the academic databases that are here through Vermont Law School.
Okay.
So yeah, everything's here and free to use. Unfortunately, we can't, because they're tied to the IP address.
Mm-hmm.
So people can't use them from a distance. And I often have people calling and asking me, can I use it remotely? No, sorry, unfortunately you can't. It's tied to the IP address. So yeah, but if people want to, like I said before, if people want to do research from home because they don't want to come in, and I understand how hard it is to get around here sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
especially to get to here for some people, Google Scholar is always an option. So. Get it?
I think so.
Oh, all right. Well, I hope that was a help.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, and I didn't,
yeah.
Even working at the state library, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. So I'm really appreciative that you were here today and could talk about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love to do this, so.
All right, well then, we will go ahead and end the session, but will we
Yeah.
be able to, do you have, did you send Joy the slides?
I didn't, but I will, so that you can
Okay.
share them with everybody. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll
that
do
would be
that.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you
Great.
so much,
Thank you so
Pamela.
much. Yeah, thank you so much for your help, and thank you everybody who came.
All right, have a good day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.